OpenTTD is easy to learn but brutally hard to master, and how you start your game can make or break your entire empire. If your early choices leave you broke or locked in or bored, you're not alone. In this video, I'll show you 10 powerful ways to start your game that are fun, profitable, and are full of potential. Now, you might even find your new favourite way to play the game. Hello there, Master Hellish here, and welcome to OpenTTD, the ultimate sandbox for building your transport empires. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 10 different ways to get started, because sometimes it can be a bit difficult to know how to get going. Now, these go from reliable classics all the way to creative and unexpected setups. Each one offers something a little different, and they'll get more and more interesting and complex as we go. And if you stick around to the end, we've got some quickfire options as well as a bonus option, and some of these might just become your new favourite ways to start a game. First up, it's aircraft. Now, these are easy for two main reasons. Firstly, you don't need any complex track layouts or road networks in order to have aircraft. Also, the planes earn strong and steady profits over a variety of distances. Now, it's this ease that is really good for beginners who just want to be able to get into the game and get a feel and get going before they learn any more complex things. It's because of this ease that I think a lot of experienced players don't like aircraft. The ease presents very little challenge, and as there's no challenge, there's very little reward in overcoming it. If you want to start with aircraft, look for a large city. You can either pan around the game or have a look in the town directory. Find your large city and then see if you can get a place where an airport will fit in nicely. You want to get as much coverage in as possible. Maybe delete a couple of road tiles if it helps you get better coverage, but avoid deleting too much, and definitely avoid deleting buildings if you can. Once you've got your airport in, you want to look for another place to put another airport, but maybe go for somewhere in the region of 100 tiles to your next city. Try and find a good sized one not far from the first. As a bonus, don't go along the grid lines, go diagonally. This gives you a boost of approximately 30% more in profits because of the way the game calculates your journey. You can repeat this again a couple of times if you want to get even more profits in. Airports can also get crowded quite easily. This is because the throughput of airports is terrible, but they're good money makers for early game, and that's what we're talking about here. At number 2, we have the classic good old coal. These lines are simple and profitable. They're simple because there's no intermediate industries or complex chains. Your trains are just going from point A to point B. Now, these lines can be as complex as you like. You could just have a single line, maybe a line with passing places or a dual line, but in any case, it is still relatively straightforward. The cargo payment rates for coal are very good. They're high and they don't drop off very quickly, which means no matter what era you're in with your rail vehicles, you will usually see some good profits. To get started, go to the industry menu, search and filter by coal mines, and then order it by production. Here you'll see the coal mines that are producing the most amount of coal across the map. Once you've found the coal mine that you're working with, look for a power station a good distance away. Make sure your train is full loading at your coal mine for good ratings. And if you're able to build a railway line with multiple trains, get ready to add a second train when your first one starts its journey. There's not too much that can go wrong with this one, except there's one fatal thing that can happen. If you build your station too far away, spend all your money on laying loads of track, and then can't afford a train or complete your railway line, you then can very easily run out of money and go bankrupt. So make sure you've got enough money for your line and don't go too far on your first one to begin with. At number 3, we have the town-to-town train service. This is actually one of my personal favourites, and it's good for a number of reasons. Firstly, if you're just going between two towns with a rail service, you can keep it relatively straightforward with your infrastructure. Now, you may think that coal just outright wins in terms of cargo payment rates, but it's not that straightforward. In a coal journey, your train on the return is empty. You don't take anything from the power station back to the coal mine. Now, with a town-to-town service, you do. Your train is full going one way and it's full going back the other. making use of both directions and pretty much doubling the amount of time your train is making profit. Another major advantage is the amount of available cargo. Even the best coal mine can be a little bit lax compared to a big town and a station with good catchment. You can use the coverage of your station to get a lot of cargo very quickly compared to industries. Now, when you create a service town to town, what you want to do is something similar to the airports. Again, use the town directory and order by population so you can find a few really good towns. Then you want to find a town that's got another town about the right distance away. And again, if you can, go diagonally rather than along the grid lines. Once you've chosen your 2 towns, get your railway stations in. Try not to move the land around too much. You'll need good ratings to keep building your train stations and later your bus stations. Yes, that's right. Your town-to-town service needs bus stations. Each town will need to grow around your station to make your station profitable and successful even more than when it started. So what you want to do is add 4 bus stations and a couple of buses going around each town. This helps the town grow at a better rate than it would if it didn't have them. To make sure that you capitalize on both passengers and mail, get your train to have approximately 1/3 mail vans. You may need to tweak this depending on the catchment of your station, but as a general rule, that's a good way to go. Because towns can grow absolutely crazy big over time, your little stations that you started with can get overwhelmed. Make sure you leave yourself enough room to expand the stations at a later date once your profits have built up a lot. At number 4, I've got a suggestion for ships, which is a bit weird, but hear me out. I say it's weird because ships are notorious for not great profits. You need to be looking at a particular situation. Ideally, you want some sort of scenario where you've got a big lake, and on 2 edges of that lake, you've got some really good cargo producers, whether you're looking at coal and oil in large quantities or maybe 2 very large towns. Ideally, these producers need to be at opposite ends of the lake, and they really want to be diagonal as well, not along those grid lines. Ships have those advantages where they cross through each other, they don't need the infrastructure put in place, and they then can carry large quantities of cargo across. Yes, they're slow, but if you take all these other factors into account and do it in the right way, you can overcome a lot of that profit problems from the slowness. Perhaps you very rarely use ships, and starting with ships sounds like an interesting way to go. This is quite situational though. If you can't find a big enough lake of the right size, if you can't find industries or towns on the edge of that lake, then you might find it quite difficult to use this particular method. Try and avoid just doing ship routes along the edge of the map. If you do this, you're not going diagonal, and really the ships need that boost to be really quite profitable. At number 5, we have going from a farm to a factory. Now, this may seem just like the same as going from a coal mine to a power station, but there's a couple of key differences here, and you also start a little bit different too. Now, when you're working from a farm to a factory, the stuff that's produced at the farm usually has poorer cargo payment rates than that of coal, and you also have to deliver them faster as those rates drop off quicker too. So you might say, hey Hellish, why should I work with a farm when I get more money from working with coal? Well, it's because once you've delivered to that factory, you can then move on to doing part 2 of your operation, the goods. Goods are one of the best paying things in OpenTTD, and moving them from the factory across to a town will net you even more money. So yes, your initial train might not quite make as much as an initial coal train, but you are setting yourself up for a lot more money in your next phase of operation. How you start this usually is a little bit different too. If you were doing the coal mines, you, like I say, go to the industry list and find the perfect coal mine, the one that produces the most. But in this one, you don't necessarily want the farm that produces the most. When you're doing a factory setup like this, I like to find a factory that has the most farms around it, so that I can start a whole hub with lots of different farms coming into one factory. For this, you want to go to the world map. Go to the industry option so you can see all the industries, and then you may want to deselect all the industries except the factories and farms. Here you can then see where the farms are. Sometimes they can be in clusters depending on how the world is generated. This is slightly more complex, working out the web of all of these different things coming into one industry, but it's not too bad. Also bear in mind that your profits might not shoot up as quick as some of the other methods straight away, but you are setting yourself up for a good network in the future. At number 6 we have subsidized routes. These can be quite good for early profit, but there is a big downside we'll come to in a moment. Once you start your game, if you look in the subsidies window, you will be offered a number of subsidies. These are routes that if you put in will give you a % bonus to the income for a certain amount of time. Click on the locations in the subsidy window and it will zoom you to those locations where you can have a look to see if you think they might be a good route to put in. This is a fun way to start the game, chasing these mini goals, adapting your playstyle depending on the particular scenarios which you are presented with. However, that big drawback. These subsidized routes tend to be very close to each other. These small routes are not always the best for profit. At number 7 we've got quite a popular one. Industry cluster exploitation. In the default game settings, each town can only have one sort of industry allocated to it. But if the industries just happen to be placed in a certain way by nearby towns, sometimes you can have more than one of that industry next to each other on the map. This means that you can very often get one station between 2 coal mines or between 2 oil wells. And sometimes it's not just 2, you can even get triple, or if you're lucky, quad pickups. What this means is that you start off with one extremely efficient railway line. You can get your train into the station and load it right up really quickly. The more cargo you have at your station, the quicker your train loads, the quicker it gets going, the faster you get your profits, the quicker you can get another train in, and it goes in a cycle like that. If you want to try this method, you will want to start by pausing the game. Have a look at the world map, get those industries up and hide everything except the primary industries. Then scour the map. Look for any industries that are right next to each other. If you're lucky, you will find 2 or more of one particular type of industry right near each other, and make sure that you've then got somewhere to send it to. You might need to do just one very large train station, or you can use something called spread stations, where you hold control and build a separate piece of station out to one side to enlarge the coverage area and make sure you capture all of the industries you're trying to get hold of. Now the downside with this one is it will require you to scour the map, trying to find that lucky bit of placement, and you might just not get it. This is a really good way to start the game if you want to get going nice and quick and you don't want to do passengers and mail. At number 8, I have something a bit different for you to consider. Some people feel a bit lost when starting a game of OpenTTD because they're just looking around a very large map and don't really know where to get going. Well, completely eliminate that problem by playing on a tiny map. It reduces that choice paralysis that you might get. Fewer towns, fewer industries, clearer focus. You might even have a map so small that it only has one town on it. To get started, keep all your normal settings, but then create a tiny map, maybe 64, maybe 128. Use a minimal amount of towns and industries and see what you get. You may want to generate a few different variations before you settle on one you like. Treat it like a puzzle. How much stuff can you squeeze in this limited space? How many different things can you do? And then on this small map, you can actually then apply the other things that we've already learnt in this video. Look for those lucrative coal mines, maybe find a factory and see if there's a number of farms around it. If there's more than one farm on the map. Profits tend to be a little lower due to the short distances. It might not be ideal for people who like to build loads of infrastructure really fast. This can be an interesting way to play the game. I've dabbled a few times, but maybe it's about time that I did a proper mini playthrough on a tiny sized map. Let me know down in the comments if you think you'd like to see me do that as a mini series. At number 9, we have playing against an AI. Most people turn off the AI competitors in OpenTTD. Some of them aren't very good and it can be difficult to find challenge working against them, but this doesn't mean you shouldn't give it a go. Competing against an AI adds a certain amount of pressure, sometimes realism, and makes you make decisions differently, forces you to act faster, claim key resources, and try and optimize early. It can force you into a style of gameplay which you might find challenging and fun and rewarding to overcome. To get started playing against an AI, go into the AI settings and check the online content. Download the AIs you want to give a go, and then select them in the AI section. Now, some of them are better than others, and I wouldn't bother with some of the low tier ones. I would go straight in with the mid tier. Ones like Not Perfect AI, Simple AI, Snake AI, Admiral AI, Choo Choo, Trains, and Rail WAI or Railway. Now, if you really want a high level challenge, you can go up against the AAA Hog EX AI. This one seems to be a level above the rest. And if you want a specific challenge, I actually have a Hog AI challenge map, and you can check out the video for that one. Of course, you don't have to just do one, you can do multiple, and this can be fun. It depends on your playstyle, but if you haven't done it before, it's probably worth giving a go. And at number 10, we have City Building. Now, I'm not talking about the vanilla city building. That can be quite boring. You put your 5 stations in, maybe help the town with its roads and fund buildings, and that's really all you can do. No, I'm talking about modded stuff, like using the simple City Builder script. I use this in both my Season 5 and Season 10 Let's Play, and it has been great fun. It gives you a set of targets to meet for your particular town, and only when you meet these requirements then does your town grow. Doing it in this manner offers a guided way of building out your transport network. You have to do specific things in specific ways in order to fulfill the necessary needs for your town. Now, using a script like this to grow a town isn't too crazy. I would say most beginners would be okay with giving this a go. Might feel a little difficult, but you'll probably be okay. However, for medium and advanced people, you can step this up a notch by changing the economy that it's doing it in. Adding a mod like FURS will allow you to have bigger and more complex requirements for your town or city, and you can also modify the settings of the script so that you can increase the amounts required or what is required entirely. I think this is a very satisfying way to play, watching your small village grow out into a massive one over time, being able to keep up with the demands and requirements to be able to fulfill the needs of your city. So those are my 10 ways to get started in a game of OpenTTD, depending on your level of knowledge and how complex you like it. But here are some quickfire extra options. You could try doing a game where you build a network which is quite realistic. Don't do those tight corners, have the lines like you would find them in the real world. Speaking of real worlds, you could play a real world height map. Download the height map, generate the game, and play in your favourite country or nation. Speaking of maps, you could also make a long, narrow map. This can be a little bit strange to play on, but that strangeness is what makes it fun. You can also play in different environments. Most people just go with the temperate environment. There's 3 others to explore. Yes, not many people like the Toyland one, but so what? Give it a go, have a bit of fun with it. As a general rule, people play on very flat maps because it can be tricky to work with hills, but that can be a nice fun challenge. Change your map, make it mountainous, see how you can get on with it. You can add a mod to the game which allows you to have trams, and maybe you can make a tram world. How much of the world can you cover with trams? So there are some quickfire options for extra ideas about how to start a game and give yourself different challenges. Speaking of challenges, here is my bonus item. Try my challenges. I have a playlist on my YouTube channel of various different challenges. Now, most of these challenges, not all of them, are OpenTTD, and I think they are fun things to do. So have a look at the playlist, that's linked in the video description as well, and maybe check out the challenges and see how well you can do against my particular scenarios. So there we have it, a whole plethora of different ideas for your OpenTTD games. Have you got an idea of how you like to start a game that wasn't featured here? Let me know down in the comments, along with any other thoughts, ideas, or questions. But that's going to be all for now. Thank you very much for watching, take care, and until I see you next time, goodbye.